Oh, we're like twins now, man. What's going on?
I know, right? Well, I specifically asked not to get the Eric Burke, but
They failed you, man. Wow. I didn't realize I had such a far reach. I made it all the way out there to Colorado with my style here. Okay. All right. Yeah. What's going on, man?
Not too much. I don't know. Let's see.
Doing a great job. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Same old stuff as usual, I think.
Yeah, they're Justin Julian. We got a bunch of people in the chat, and Justin Julander was in there, and they were saying that Reptile Fight Club is their new favorite podcast. And
nice.
Yeah, it was good. That's a good one. Those guys do a good job, So
yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to listen to this one, but the topic looks super fun, so I'm definitely excited. I wonder which side that Justin took.
I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but
okay.
They did get a little. I don't want to say
Justin win yet again. I think what he's 9-1 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think Justin might have pulled this one out too, but I don't know. You be the judge.
I just meant the coin toss where he gets to pick what he's going to talk about, and Chuck's always sitting there going, "You're taking my side again." Chuck puts up a good fight. So much of the time, right? They actually agree. Kind of had the same perspective, so it's more about the form of the thing and kind of talking through the stuff.
Yeah, I do like that. It brings. I know that everybody probably thinks like it should be a. Like people should be yelling and screaming at each other. I guess that's the culture of today. But like they do it in a way that makes you at least think about the other side. I think that's why I enjoy it so much. It makes you, if you can listen to it with an open mind, you could possibly change your opinion at the end of the thing. But the whole monoculture thing, it's something that I've struggled with that myself because do you just do carpets? See that? He's got the Eric Burke special there, Justin. Yeah. Oh, but it's a good one.
Is that talking about what again, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to hear it yet, but is it in the concept of in the hobby generally, or is it kind of more specific to you as one particular keeper?
I think they were talking about sort of the hobby too, sort of the whole ball pythons being a huge dominant thing in the hobby, leopard gecko or crested geckos.
Don't get all Owen on me here.
What?
The odd inappropriate singular leopard gecko, crested gecko, ball python.
Oh man, he's rubbing off on me. What the hell?
Right. Got my room of ball python.
My boa. No, boa. Yeah, that's it. That's what he says.
Cobra.
Yeah. But yeah, no. It was a good one for sure. I think I don't know. In my opinion, I think Justin was kind of like making some good points and kind of I don't know, got Chuck a little flustered maybe. You can hear him like, oh shit, Justin's winning again.
That's funny.
But I did get real quick. I did get a cool book in the mail, and it's signed, and yours is signed too, and it's on your way. But Lizards of Australia by Scott and Ty Hyper. Very cool book, man. Very, very cool. Lots of cool lizards in Australia. As you know, I have the lizard bug now.
Yeah, man.
But
so interactive. So much I think it is kind of that hands-off, obviously the Dark Frog Keepers have known this for a long time, right? The joy of setting something up so you can enjoy just watching it do what it does rather than having to interact with, rather than grab it and hold it and stress it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to. Actually, I got a couple of cool books. I got this
Nice.
Lizards of Australia 3 geckos, and remember we were talking about those, and what is that? This is a cool one.
Yeah,
monitors. That's a cool book. I know you have this one, but I picked it up.
Yeah, so
that's a cool.
Gunter Schmiede. Yeah, so many great pictures.
Gunter Schmiede. Yeah, man, the photography in this book is amazing. Yeah, really cool. And then, of course, that one.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
His other book on the, yeah.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't have the gecko one out yet, though, but still, all good. Tons of stuff to read. Yeah, man.
Were those printed? Those are print to order, right? Or as opposed to being like shipped from Australia or whatever, right? On the Gunter ones.
Yeah. I think they do it to order, right? You know, you go on and you sort of order it and then they print it up. What did you say, Eric? Does the book have a cool piece on Aussie water dragons? Which one? The Australian dragon ones? Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's one of the most iconic lizards, I think. And let's see. I don't know. Yeah, it's got quite a bit on frillies. So, from Epa.
Scots, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's is sort of the Scott and Ty's book is kind of like it kind of gives you like an overview of the species, if you will, kind of just
it's a little more right designed to be something you can take in the field, especially in that kind of, it's not quite pocket sized or whatever, and you can take it up there and distinguish stuff.
Yeah, 100%. But still good resource for sure.
Yeah.
Stumble upon a species like chameleon geckos, man. I was talking to you about them, and like, what an interesting gecko, man. They're just so different looking,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I know Zoolander has seen that. I think certainly he's seen him once, but I don't know if he saw him on a separate trip as well. But we were at the spot, a spot for him. We weren't there at night though, so I think that was kind of the downer on that. And then just on the Australian Herpetoculture podcast, right? They were talking to Jake Menney. I know I'm quite confident that the spot that he was talking about where they saw just a whole heap of them is going to either be the spot that we were at or another of the spots that Justin went to. It certainly was in that immediate vicinity.
Justin said he saw him on 2 trips. Lucky. Yeah, there's some being bred in the U.S. That's what I somehow I saw that, and I was like, wait, these are in the U.S.? Wow, that's pretty cool.
Right. It seems like small numbers and stuff, but
yeah,
for sure. And again, the funny thing with that is always, what counts as expensive for a gecko compared to what, I mean, to me, they're expensive, but what counts, the scale, the relative scale, going back to the ball python thing, what counts as expensive is nothing like sort of the morph python thing from a decade ago.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's, they, I would say they're probably in the,
I think like something like $5,000 a pair or something, maybe
a
little bit more than that. What is it? Carpodactylus. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I can't even
Lavis,
see it. Yeah. Lavis, yeah. Wow. I'm in between glasses. The far away ones don't work, and the close up ones don't work. Yeah. Probably around $10,000 a pair. Whoa! Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah, I was thinking what I was saying just off. Somehow I saw one of the Canadian import exporters or something had some from Europe, and I think they had said something like 6,500 or something, and that was a year or two ago. So
wow. Yeah,
I mean they're definitely still a pretty penny for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's I don't know. For now, I'll just enjoy reading about them, but such a I don't know, such a weird. It's got like long legs, and it's kind of like a knobtail, but I don't know, just crazy, cool stuff though. But
Yeah, definitely. They some similarities in body form to the Cerdodactylus. I don't think they're particularly related, but just the long, slender form with and then the tail, right? So if the tail makes a noise when it breaks off. I don't know if it talks about that in the book, but I know Justin has told us about that.
Yeah, I think let's see, toes on claws. Shelters day in the leaf. Terrestrial sits upside down. Yeah, disregarded regenerated tail makes loud squeaks while original tail does not. That's weird. Oh, wow. Okay. The most basal species of their group. Yeah, I guess it would look like that. I don't know, man. So many, when you start opening up to other species, I think it's interesting how much you miss,
Yeah.
How much that like you don't even pay attention to because you're so focused. Again, that monoculture brain of like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm only focused on this one thing. I don't know. I often admire people that are so focused on one thing. I've been both ways in my reptile keeping journey, I guess, but I think the most fun is when you have a variety. But
Yeah, there's probably a sweet spot number, right? Which is more than one, but less than 20, 15.
Yeah. I guess it becomes difficult when you're working with different species from different type environment types and stuff, and all that kind of stuff. So it can make it tricky for sure. But yeah, cool. Yeah, we were so we're gonna be doing the black-headed python natural history show tomorrow. Me and Lucas are gonna be recording it, so it'll be out Tuesday. But we were going through last night, just I don't know where we. It's so cool to look back and like when you know where you found like the area you found it, and you can like Google it and look on Google Maps and sort of see like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, and watching video and whatnot. It was pretty cool, man. I was definitely missing our Australia trip and how cool that. It's the rock that I think Justin's hanging from it in the carpet python book, right? He's sort of hanging off the edge of it, and it makes him look like he's mountain climbing or whatever. Right. And then in reality, it's just like this rock that he's sort of just like sitting on or something. But it's cool stuff. But yeah, it should be good.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think that well, that was just such a crazy night, right? Because that was the Oenpelli night, on the way back. So it's you were saying where. Yeah, Ubiri. Well, Scott says it's Ubiri. Yeah, and it comes from, but that's how you say it. We were already, just sort of distorted, right? You're on tilt in the Oenpelli. So you were saying, oh, where was? And it's like, well, that gave you a fairly broad range, but it certainly was. That's where it was, and then you add a northern brown snake to the mix, and Boyga.
Yeah, that was quite a night, man.
right. Yeah. But the notion, right, from a kid or whatever, that it's like, oh yeah, well, you're gonna have a 4-hour window in which you're gonna see an Oenpelli python and then a blackhead. That's nothing.
Yeah. The stuff reptile people dream
not the
of.
most common place to see them, right? In terms of obviously Oenpellis, they live in a very particular place, whereas blackheads have a very broad range. But that particular spot, certainly they're found there. It's not to say that they're not, but they're not in a particularly high concentration or density. Or I know right before we went the first time, we're framing the conversation of, well, where you always are trying to, if you're looking for a certain thing, trying to go to the place where that's most likely to happen. And certainly you would not say that about blackheads, in the Darwin area, right. Maybe say if you're at I know Justin and Nick and all saw one there, but for the most part, I think you'd say Eastern Queen, kind of not far north Queensland, but on the way there is all the way down to Charters Towers and stuff. The range for Charters Towers up to through the Tablelands.
Where were we going when on the first trip? and we got skunked out by the fires. What was that? Where were we headed for that? Because we were going to look for blackheads and pygmy bandits, right?
Yeah. On the just basically on the road up to Cooktown.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I mean, not quite that far, but just that stretch when you're inland on that road.
Right.
It's actually the area right where I think where Ricky McKenzie is. I think he's up that way. So, and you see him post blackheads with some regularity and stuff like that. So that's really kind of the habitat of that area.
Yeah, they're like I guess it's like I don't know. It just reminds me of like a dry type of woodland environment is what I think of when I think of those guys. But yeah, cool stuff for sure. Can't wait to our 4 years primarily, Gavin, all 3 different times of the year. Only found 3 blackheads on the road. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, well, you still saw 3, right? But relative to the ratio, meaning that they're there, but the ratio is very low.
Yeah.
Compared to over kind of that Mount Malloy type,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, or out west, right? I guess they're more.
I think that's you hit it right or you don't, but more hit and miss. But certainly, man, some beautiful ones over in that Port Hedland area and all about that.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah. Carpet Fest. What about Carpet Fest? Northwest Carpet Fest, September 18th, I believe it is. Wheeler High. He's wheelering. Yeah, man. What else is new with you? What's the collection doing? What you been up to?
Not too much, man. With the same stuff as ever. Got the Subflavus that's showing good signs and stuff. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Certainly excited about that. But yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, trying to look at trips and things. Looking at the Arizona stuff.
Yeah.
Eating lizard. Yeah. No doubt, man. That's awesome. So much cool experience and stuff. It's really kind of blows my mind, right? We can have the opportunity to have a live chat like this and get this sort of instant feedback from around the world. And
yeah, I know.
Particularly now, right? Where we can't physically have that contact and communication and stuff. So it's super cool.
Yeah. Bees Creek. Okay. All right.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, yeah, it was funny. So I haven't actually finished the show. You guys you did whatever last week with Nick, but I've heard a lot of the chatter through with the Australia stuff and all that, and definitely is exciting. It's always, I'm with you. Well, so I guess the thing that I would, put out into the world for my own sake or whatever is, as much as you missed out on not going, you were saying, 3 times that I missed out or whatever. Yeah, there's some, I'll come back to that in 1 second, Darren. As much as that's true, well, then it wouldn't have been the group that went, right? It wouldn't have been you, me, and Solenn that went the first time, and then it wouldn't have been, obviously Owen and Keith with us the second time. So it's one of those where it's and then we missed out on this one, right? Going with Justin and Riley, which would have been its own different thing. Yeah, so I think every trip's different in that way. You're going to, even when you're going to the same place, I know Chris kind of, I'm sure would feel that way, having been there before, that was his second time to the spot. I'm sure it felt very different being a different group of folks, and then, kind of each is its own thing.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
100%. I guess what I should have probably said is that I wish that our group would have been going earlier. Not necessarily do I want to go on that crazy trip that they went on, the Cape York trip, right. Man. That sounded like I don't know. It sounded like
I'm sure it was a ton of fun, but yeah, it's it's always, you gotta, right? What do we always say? It's sort of the zen of the whole thing. You have to enjoy the process and do the best you can. You can make bad choices more than you can make good choices, and just do the best you can. And Nathan, we're super excited. I really liked the show you did on THP, and I heard, heard that and you said a couple of really interesting things there, and you said something interesting in the chat there. We'll have to chat offline. I know we're trying to plan a trip for a little bit later here, and we'd love to meet up or chat through it or whatever can be made to work, and get some insight. That's always good. So
it's Arizona should be a blast for sure, but I think it's I think in a way I kind of feel good that we sort of were forced to take a break from Australia, because it sort of like made me spend the time sort of thinking about everything that I'm seeing rather than just looking for pythons, like getting appreciation for, the whole thing, if you will, from all the wildlife that you're seeing.
Notice the funny thing to me is there are so many things that are presented as ubiquitous, right? Like Burton's legless lizards and all those sorts of things, which are all things that I would love to see and are presented as just being crawling all over the place in maybe the same way as the stenotus and stuff. And we've yet to see those. So I'm excited for that possibility. Sorry to hear that, Darren. Yeah, I mean, well, it doesn't give much hope for us getting to Australia. If the Australians can't go amongst the different states and territories, or at least there's restrictions, right?
Yeah.
Hang on, particular ones to others and things.
2023, man. I'm gonna try to pull off a full solid 2 weeks, man. It's like solid 2 weeks. We'll see what I can do.
So I think you just got to do more like. To me, I still think the play is the 8. I know Justin is a big proponent of the extended venture, but I think at some point you start to flag, and then maybe if you go to a different spot or whatever, it's boosting that enthusiasm. But if it's sort of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I think it's just you go twice. You go twice for 8 days, and do different places, and you kind of mix it in. It doesn't always have to be the
that has its benefits too, man. I guess it's like that whole monoculture month long. Oh shit, man, I would love that. Oh man, take a whole month off. I'd have to retire. Me and you are right up there, Justin. We're almost there, man. The light at the end of the tunnel, man. It's almost there.
I think Justin has some pretty good PTO or FTO situation relative to pretty much everybody else.
Yeah, I don't know if I could take off a month. I'd probably have to retire.
No, I mean, you'd be off permanently at that point.
Yeah, I could take off the whole year, man. I'm living in the outback for sure. No worries. But
you got nothing to come back to. Nobody's paying you, but
right on. Oh man, yeah, that would be great. So, but what are you gonna do? You take what you can get. But yeah.
And then to Darren's comment from earlier, right, when he was talking about Bee Creek and then saying it's down by Berry Springs, that's a super interesting area that I'd like to hear more about. We went down that way on the way out to Cox Peninsula to give that a look, but we were kind of mistimed in the day, and I forget. Yeah, I think we just then wound up back and did the gardens again and stuff like that. It seemed a lot of private property going there. It seems like a little bit limited access and stuff. So I'd be super curious to hear from Darren at some point. I know the Primordius, right? There's really pocketed around Berry Springs. So that was sort of the thought process. And I'm sure there's either a specific habitat type or place or something. But in terms of access to that area, I'm not totally clear. We did try and give it a look. That's where we ran into the Powerline employees, Eric, if you remember.
Yes,
those guys, and they were super sweet, but they were definitely like, "What in the heck are you guys doing?" They're not from around here. Hey, that's perfectly clear. And what we could possibly be doing out here is a mystery. They're going. That's funny. We were talking to some other folks I think in that area, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I've never even been out there."
Yeah, it's different habitat, and yet lots of mango farms out there. They're so good.
We went down that way. We went to the water, but again, it just seemed very restricted access.
Yeah.
So I think and it was sort of. It felt like we were just a little bit off from maybe where we were supposed to be or how it was supposed to go, and we couldn't figure it out. And we, as I said, chatted up these. Electrical line workers, and they were just like, I don't even come here. I'm just randomly here today.
Yeah, they just sent me here. You guys showed up here on purpose. What are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. So I would make this announcement. I guess we can sort of make it now. I was waiting for it to come up on Apple, but Colubrid and Colubroid Radio is up on Spotify and Google. We're just waiting for it to pop up on Apple, but it's basically like NPR for colubrids. So it should be pretty cool because the two people that are hosting the show are a wealth of information when it comes to colubrids. You got Dr. Zach Loafman, and then you got Matt Most. Both of them have been on NPR, but I think I wasn't there for the Matt episode. That was you and Owen a while back. What's his? What is it? Sarpamitra. Sarpamitra. Yeah, that's it. Is his thing. He does like a lot of like Asian colubrids and stuff, right? Am I right on that? Like,
yeah, I mean, he has a whole host of different things. He's even got some North American stuff. He does projects.
He does like rare
Clint
stuff,
Bartley,
I guess, right?
And with Stan Grumback and so
right.
So they have. I think that's a lot of with Clint is a lot of North American stuff that Matt's into, and his daughter has like corn snakes and stuff, so they have a handful of that stuff, and then a lot of Asian stuff, and then some kind of weird off the wall African stuff. He's got those black stripe snakes and stuff, file snakes. Yeah,
I remember.
I did listen to the first episode. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, people just check it. Even if you don't do a Spotify thing, just give it a listen on there. It's definitely worth a listen. It's really cool. They both know so much, and really, we're chatting well together, and I think it's great.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was pretty cool that when I'm editing it, I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I can't believe they're actually doing a podcast here. It's sort of like Justin and Chuck, and like, oh, okay, wow, we got a pretty good crew, man, of podcasts going on. Yeah, man.
You just have to get Warren on a BOA show. That's the one that I keep pitching, but we just haven't made it work or figured it out. Whatever. But other than that, right? Each show you keep saying is the last show, but I don't know.
And then another one comes up.
I'd like you to get that one in before you keep shutting the door on it. So.
Yeah, I think that would be it, and then you also have Nick is working on his.
Oh yeah, Nick's thing, which will be super cool, and then maybe that could be it. I don't have anything else in mind at this point. So.
Yeah, that would kind of covers the gauntlet of pretty much everything, except turtles, and I don't know, just
turtles are cool, but I don't think that's. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think at some point you say enough is enough, and there's other voices as to that stuff, and even the Amphibicast, right, covers is a cool show. I don't know who the guy is. I don't know that he's ever really said, but he's up in Long Island. Cool guy. He's done 50 some odd episodes, so worth a listen to. Not affiliated, but worth a listen.
Yeah, the other cool thing that we have coming up is next Saturday we're going to be talking Ackies and Kimberly Rocks with Mike Stefani from Mike's Monitors on NPR. So that'll be cool.
Mike's super knowledgeable and super fun. He's just like the most fun-loving dude. It's
man. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I just find it funny how that whole thing happened. Like you were hitting him up or whatever.
I reached out to somehow either I think I had reached out to him, and then he wound up being the guy who sent into the NPR message, and I happened to see it, and then you're separately talking to him, and he's like, man, these guys don't know what the heck they're doing. But hopefully, proven that not to be the case. But.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's something that I'm going to be adding a couple things to the collection, and that is actually one of them. So,
yeah, man, I'm super excited for you. At some point here, I'll have to get some again myself. They're, certainly my favorite Odatria, and along with Merton's, my favorite overall monitors. But the care package, so to speak, involved with taking care of a Kim is a lot less than a Merton's for sure. But,
Yeah.
I mean, heck, that speaks to Mike, right? He's doing both those things crazy well, and it seems like he's just, he'll get something, and next thing you know, he's turning it around. Either that, or was holding out on us, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's, he's just going out, he's getting these things, and next thing you know, they're taking off for him.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool to, I know he did the Monitor podcast a couple times, and it's been cool. But I think this approach is like I kind of sold it to him, like, I want it to be from a snake person's perspective that's maybe, gun shy about getting into a dwarf monitor type thing, and what you need to be successful with that, right? So I think I'm probably going to ask those questions that maybe the monitor guys sort of gloss over, or not in a bad way, but you know what I mean. To them, it's like, oh, this is just secondhand. Like, this is just the easy stuff, So
right, I think that's totally right. I like the Monitor podcast. There's a ton of great content that they're putting out there. But it's heavy, because it's like, it's got me thinking the whole time. Yeah. And, I think a lot of it is, if I'm sitting there going, okay, I have to really pay attention, and then it's really spurring me to have these additional thoughts and ideas and concepts and things. And if you don't have a ton of experience, it could very easily go over somebody's head. So yeah, I think it makes total sense to have the approach of saying, hey, Mike, we're going to go, you really did that with Alan, right? When he was on a handful of weeks ago, where it's like, okay, don't assume I know anything. Let's really walk through it and all that stuff. And I think both have their place, but certainly until you guys build up either the knowledge in yourselves, or in terms of the really getting connected with the monitor community that exists and working to grow that community, the niche, right, Nipper, is that we have here in terms of the Monitor podcast. If we're coming in at that super kind of graduate level course of ideas, as opposed to really walking through it step by step, it has a ton of value to a very few people. I know Mike, right, is a huge proponent of the show. He loves the show. Yeah. But that's because you're talking about somebody in Mike who really understands monitors and knows it really well. And so yeah, I'm all for it, but simultaneously we got to get people to that point, and it involves asking questions that maybe seem obvious to somebody who has kept monitors a long time.
Yeah, I think they're so different than keeping a snake. Their care, their daily care, their just the requirements as far as heating is just completely foreign to a snake keeper.
Right. The temps that you're going for, how you're achieving it, what you're doing. To Doc Julender's point, right? It was funny. I think I was listening. I didn't make it all the way through, but the last Carpets and Coffee, you guys were joking about Brett's magic shed, right? It seems that it's bigger on the inside. It's the TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside. But when you first said it, I thought you were just going to say that he has incredible success with everything that he puts in the shed. That's how I took it when you first said it. It wasn't the size. I was like, oh yeah, just that Brett is doing awesome with literally everything. And that's what I thought you meant by magic, but in truth, it's both.
Kind of that too. Yeah. that was part of it, but yes. Yeah. It seems like whatever he touches, it's sort of like Mike,
man.
Yeah. It's like rough scales and
Golans and Golans. Oh, they all this struggle, and I know there have been struggles to it or whatever, but yeah, man, so much great stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited about the Kimberly, and then I'm going to be getting some pygmy pythons from Justin to sort of round out the Antaresia thing, and I've had a bunch of snakes that sort of left, some that are about to leave.
Right.
So yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's definitely different than I was maybe 5 years ago, where I was sort of more focused and all, which is, it's interesting when I listen to Justin and Chuck on the Reptile Fight Club. It's like I've been in both perspective, which I think a lot of people have. And I think that maybe, I think that's the thing, right? I don't know what you think about this, but I think a lot of times the thing that happens in the hobby is we're all sort of on different levels at different times, and like you have these people that are just coming in and they're crazy about the morphs because, I think about the morphs and I think about this picture. I'm gonna share it real quick just because, hold on, let me get my share button here. But when you look at that group of carpets, man, that's pretty crazy. Funny. You know what I mean? I mean, just when you look at that orange and then the white, and it's nuts that, so I totally get why somebody that is coming into it is looking at that and being blown away, especially from a carpet python point of view, since, Australians call them crappets because of, but, and then I look at what Scott has on his back porch. And that was pretty cool. I'm like, oh man, I would love to wake up to that every day and see,
yeah, 100%.
That, just out on your steps. That's crazy. But
yeah, the kind of the entirely, it's different shades of gold and purple, mixed together.
Yeah, man.
And that's just the critter that's hanging out on the back porch.
Yeah. So it's pretty wild. But stop sharing. There we go. Okay. But I think that you go through stages and you grow and you change and you evolve, and everybody's at a different point in that evolution of yourself. A lot of people, they want to keep everything, and then they find that thing that they like, and maybe for a while they're in that mono type of mindset and they dial that in, and then they add something else, and then they find that they like that. I know me and you have talked a million times about the whole idea of trying different species out. There's nothing wrong with, saying that I thought that would be cool, but it's not for me, so I just kind of move on from it,
I was having the same thought process, right, as you were talking there, even relative to morphs, right? That it's like, I think we often make, we're led astray, right, when we say definitively that this is the right way, this is the wrong way, and don't recognize even the instances in ourselves where we've changed our mind, right? Where you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, at one point, these were the cool thing, and I liked him too, and that inspired me to get involved with it, and I liked him, or I found that I sort of didn't, or I liked these ones, didn't say, not these other ones, or however it goes, right? But I do think that's why it's never a good idea to write to say things definitively that very clearly don't have a definitive answer. Which is
yeah. You know how we try hard to avoid that at all costs, but sometimes
it's just shorthand. I think most of the time, even not even. I mean, sometimes, right? It's sort of maybe political, so to speak, right? And it's sort of there's an agenda behind it. For the most part, I think it's just it's complicated to say. Well, usually, but not always. And actually, I know 10 exceptions myself, or whatever. Right. Whether amongst others or even amongst myself, it's easier to say nobody does that.
Yeah.
Which took longer. I talked for 10 seconds and didn't even make sense versus,
right.
3 words. And it's the same idea, but also there's no subtlety to that. And that lack of subtlety means you're going to be inaccurate, frankly.
Yeah. 100%. So. But I don't know. And now I never thought years ago that I would be keeping monitors and be interested in skinks and all this stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, but I know I say this all the time, but you've been banging this drum to me for years now. I mean, it seems like years where you're saying, cut the collection down and, pick what you really like and work with that and enjoy it and observe it, and rather than have all these different animals and tubs that you can't really get a feel for
and just so much work, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be that, and which is fine in of itself, right? Obviously, the perfect size relative to a given person's kind of available time and
Sure.
work ethic and mentality and all this stuff is going to be, there's going to be a huge range across that anyway. But just, I think what we see a lot is folks that just wind up with so much stuff that then they, it's entirely work, and they don't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
And then those are the people, honestly, we talk about people burning out, right? And it's like, I think the majority of people who burn out, and, they wind up having no animals is because they had been past that point for a long time, and that's really what it caused them.
I think it even makes it a little bit easier to sort of burn out when you're working with something, because you think you have to work with it, as opposed to something that you genuinely enjoy working with. If you enjoy working with it, it's not as hard to feed it every day or change its, cage or, whatever.
Or deal with it if it's being persnickety or whatever it might be.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
I know the thing that always jumps to mind is I've known several people whose collection was entirely comprised of Goniosoma and scrub pythons, and that meaning true Goniosoma. Okay. Oxycephala, and Jansenii and things. And it's like, if you have 40 snakes, all of which want to kill you, and you don't have any easy buttons, and it's fun to have one or two that keep you on your toes, or even a handful or whatever. But the notion that your collection is entirely comprised of things that want to kill you, eventually that's going to get old.
Yeah. 100%. It's I don't know how Owen does it, but he how he enjoys getting bit, but
right.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I was hot and heavy in the scrubs, and my room at the time was way smaller than what I have now. And granted, I didn't have as much, but just working with a scrub in a small room is just, oh my goodness, man, that's just
and again, if you have one, right, in that context, and then you have a bunch of stuff, that is not that it needs to be docile or whatever, but it's not sort of the thing. I guess what I intended to say is, if every cage, if you need to steel yourself for every interaction that you have, and I suppose that's sort of the venomous thing, but I would imagine that a lot of venomous keepers keep relatively small collections and work them in sort of a way that they're not getting overly exposed to it and stuff. I know Terry, at work is just always boom, 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 no worries, but that's his job, that's his entirety of his focus. And even that, he's got a routine, and that's the way he can do it the way that he does. But just if every engagement with everything you have, and it's not your job, that's going to be, eventually that's probably going to get old. And that's what I've seen it with scrubs and Goniosoma and stuff, that they're all beautiful and the people really love them. And then they keep too many, and then they don't like them at all. They lose the love for this, not even just for keeping them, but like it can turn them off to the species in general. Like they've kind of lose the love for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's how I kind of felt with white lips. I just think they suck. I just generally think they suck. I mean,
they're gorgeous,
beautiful 100%.
Amazing snakes. That would be incredible to see in the wild, assuming you could actually see it, if it's not just a leaf litter critter that you're not even seeing, whatever. But yeah, I mean, as a captive animal, they're not particularly hospitable. It's like, okay, there's a bunch of things that are hard. None of the things fit into the box of like, oh well, but at least this is convenient, or this is fun and enjoyable or whatever. And it's like, no, they don't have anything that fits in that box.
Yeah, the struggle I always had with those is like, if you're going to go away on a herping trip.
Exactly. 2 weeks on those, they're dead. I don't care where you live, man.
Yeah, and
I mean, you could have someone come and and supplement it, but even then, maybe who was it, Nick or was it Ryan? Somebody was talking about that in the context of they did exactly that, right? They were gone someplace for an extended period of time, and they had someone who came through and was going to refill the waters, and somehow that one got missed and it was dead.
Yeah,
and obviously everything is at risk, right? If it's without water for an extended period of time, but if the definition of extended period of time relative to your local conditions and the expectations of that snake species is like 12 hours, that's you're riding the edge of the razor there, man.
Yeah. I'm not condoning that you don't give your carpet python water or something like that,
100%.
but it's if it's a couple
It's sort
days
of a miracle
go by,
white lips survived shipping, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. Right? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, man, it's I don't know. And the fact that they're so, unpredictable, I guess is the word.
Oh yeah, they bite to the side. They have it's not quite like a stiletto snake sort of deal, but they 1,000%. They very rarely bite head on. They have this sort of side swipe thing that they love to do, which helps in terms of getting a tease feed response on them if you're running the side of the neck and stuff, because that's how they naturally want to bite anyway. But at the same time, particularly on babies. But yeah, man, not great. Yeah. And that's honestly one of the things that's most fascinating in terms of reading the Husbandry of Pythons and Boas by Jerry Marzek and Richard Ross, who we had on the show. The thing that is just so impressive is their record with white lips. In terms of both gold and black white lips, from the late 70s. Into the early 90s, but the notion that they're breeding those things, they've got beautiful pictures of them coming out of eggs. I don't know if there's a baby gold in there, but certainly there's a baby black, baby southern white lip python that's it's gorgeous, and it's the notion that was 40 years ago or whatever is so much respect for that, because that's fantastic.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. I wonder why people still struggle so much with them in particular. I tend to think that maybe it's a seasonal thing. It's like they're sort of not hitting it at the right time, so to speak. I don't know. That would be my thought. But I guess the whole scrub mentality where they flip from spot to spot to spot. But
yeah, because they're not that enjoyable to keep.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your fundamental problem? Okay, you're probably not getting captive for the most part, at least historically. Now I know it's changing with Ryan is kind of the most notable that I'm aware of, having so much success and all that. It changes a little bit, but in terms of, you're talking about, establishing wild-caught specimens of stuff that tend to run really stressed, are particularly aggressive and are difficult to maintain, and then people aren't having success with it. That's the recipe is just that they're not easy, and then combined with a lot of difficulty, right? Just not bringing joy. And if you have people if you appreciate, well, this isn't bringing me joy, then I'm just going to move on and do something else. Whereas, then I have somebody else sitting there going, yeah, but they're worth money, and all this stuff, and then they're just sort of suffering through, but they're not enjoying it. Well, that's not an atmosphere that's going to bode well to producing those things either. So I think they're hard, and that's that's it. And Dr. Ross is just so passionate that his passion overcame the fact that they kind of suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Doc Julander's point, right? Chuck with the Holmes and stuff, a species close to my heart that I've had a ton of, and I had got a little bit close once, but man, the success that Chuck is having, that OKC Zoo has had, that now Dennis has one of those and all that stuff. I think that will only improve, but Chuck's effort speaks to it more than anything. It's exactly that. It's someone needs to be that passionate. And shoot, even I remember, if you go back far enough in the history, that the day we were leaving Brisbane on our first trip, I'll never forget it. Right?
I remember.
OKC babies. Well, at least. So we were a day ahead of it, in theory, but it was happening contemporaneously that the OKC babies were hatching out, the first captive bred ones, and then the next year Chuck has some. And all along we were kind of saying that it seemed like the sort of thing that as soon as someone proved that it was possible, then it would become much more common. And that it's not much more common, but much, much more compared to nothing, I suppose. But, Chuck's is the perfect thing. But shoot, I remember us chatting about those 5 or 6 years before, when I still had quite a few and all that. And it's like, there are good and bad days. It can just suck some days, and on something. That's the other thing. right, man, I love all the podcasts, social media, Instagram, seeing all these cool pictures, whether it's field herping or captive, though, man, I don't know that we're socially equipped to handle what happens there if you're somebody like, Chuck or myself, and you're sitting there and it's like, well, I'm really kind of focused on these small handful of things, and it's not you have years with nothing, literally, with the Solomon Island tree boas, right? It took me 5 years. Well, and now this will be adding a third year to that. So I'll have worked with those animals for 8 years with a group that I probably have 35 to 40 snake years in this group that I have now. 35 to 40 snake years of experience with that species, and I've produced exactly one litter. And and I learned a ton out of it. I was like, oh well, yeah, sure. They dropped on 205 days after the shed, and all the, well, they're funny about faking it. In terms of, they're very, that's its own kettle of fish, so to speak, right? But the point would be that, I go through all this stuff, and sure, yeah, there was 200 likes on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, people are like, okay, cool, on the first day, and then that's it. So it's like, well, I hope it was worth it intrinsically, because, I remember laughing about the fact that at the time Joe Phelan would get more likes for a picture of, an amel corn snake that, was one of 10,000 produced in the world that year, and he'd get 1,000 likes. And it's like, it has to be intrinsically worth it for you, because it is, you better be doing it for yourself.
It's funny how that, even myself, I remember when we talked about that, and I remember having conversations with you on the phone, and you're saying like, talking about, you don't know when she's going to drop the babies because there's no information. Right. Like there's literally nothing. I'm sort of like just winging it, and I don't know if I necessarily at that exact time had an appreciation for what you were saying to me. I heard what you were saying, and and I'm communicating back and forth, but I think for some reason with me, how I process stuff is like, it takes me like something else has to click. And then when that other thing clicks, I go, holy shit, that's that thing that Rob's doing. Like, what the hell? And here I am, like, a close friend with you and all. And you're sort of like saying to me, like, what the hell, man, this is crazy. I'm going to, I think she's gravid. She's going to, or I guess she would be pregnant. Right. And she's going to drop the litter, and would it still be gravid?
I think so. That's what I say. But yeah, it was 7 months of like, it has to be what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all these things, and that presumably is what it means. But
right.
Again, as not to not doing that, I think it should just be taken. To me, it was very similar to Chuck's thing. I'm not saying other people had bred Australis before. I'm not saying that, but
no, yeah.
Just in the context of like, even for Chuck's thing, well, he just kept all of them, right? I don't think, even as far as I know, to this date, he hasn't let go of any of them, and I don't blame him for it. And it's sort of the same deal with the Australis, where it was like, well, there's not even a financial reward, because it was just like, well, now I've got to get them started and see how they do, and learn, that process on its own, and, do all those different things. So you have to enjoy it for the process. And that doesn't mean that you'll love it every day. I guess that was sort of the thing that had gotten us here, right? Was, I know Chuck and I thought there are good days and bad days, because you'll see Eric produced all these cool or, even worse, you see somebody working in a big operation where they just have all this awesome stuff, right? Something's always going. Or somebody, Nathan, living in Arizona, I'm sure he's finding awesome stuff. All the Australians, right? Darren, saying, oh, all this stuff, that's old hat to me, calling them crap. It's a growing experience, right? That kind of defines stuff, and it's hard, but we just have to do the best that we can to appreciate.
I think it comes down to that whole thing, man. If you do what you love and you talk about it in a way that people can appreciate, they may not want to run out and get that species, but like, I don't know, that to me, that was always the magic of reptile radio, like, and I think you'll agree with me. It's like, I never wanted to keep ball pythons at that point that I was listening to that, but I would listen to that show, and I would just get little nuggets of information that I could, or I would be able to, talk with other reptile people enough to where, maybe I could grab their ear when they want to listen to what I have going on with carpets, and you know what I mean. And it's kind of like the things
100%.
like, I think if you just sort of, I don't know. I like to listen to things that are sort of outside the box, but you have to sort of be doing it for the right reasons. And I think sometimes, at least for me, that's kind of easy to see when you see people that are doing that and they're just doing it because, and I get it. If you're doing it as a job and it's your full-time job, you're probably going to be doing things that you might not necessarily get you going. I think of Eugene Bissett, where he used to talk about how much he loved Burmese pythons, and if he had his way, he'd be doing like
right,
tons
even farming them
of
for meat, and and stuff. That's what he likes.
But meanwhile, he's like producing corn snakes and all these generic reptiles, if you will. But I don't know. I really just, I guess it depends on which way you're coming at it from. But I think the
and even that can shift over time, right?
Yeah.
I would betcha, Eugene, he's his own bird for sure. But so maybe it's not the case. But in general, right, we see that a lot with people that are similarly situated who then either shift to, they, get rid of everything. They sort of sell the collection and stuff. And a lot of those people, the true diehard folks, they wind up coming back to it either on a small or large scale. Even Bill Brandt, right? Okay, I'm selling this whole massive infrastructure. And then it's, but couldn't stay away for long because you're actually a reptile person, And the alternative where it's like, well, that just was a thing that you were doing or whatever. And then maybe those people never keep them again, or their life just drives it away, and, these different things. It's not a value judgment. It's just saying, even amongst, going back to that point, that people are not static for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be as much as seeing something in the field. I mean, that can change your whole perspective on things too. Getting out and seeing a species that maybe didn't really catch your eye at a reptile show per se, but then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, that was so cool. What it was, because you're seeing it in what it's supposed to do in the environment it's supposed to do it.
It's so awesome, man.
Yeah. But
it really is. It's even stuff. I think that you made this great point, right? That when we go to Tinley and things, and you'll see stuff that's become so normalized, right? But then you'd see the same thing or something that's even sort of, if you wanted to say, the more common variant off that same thing. Oh, this isn't even, it's the more common, not this obscure species that I'm actually seeing. But if you engage that animal in the wild doing what it's supposed to do, and you're just trying to get one, the best picture that you can to really, for me, more than anything, it's not even the ability to share that photo. It's the ability to remember it for yourself. And I know Justin feels the same way in terms of the video stuff. And I think that's really cool. That's why it works so well that you're doing video. I'm trying to take pictures, and we went with Chris, he's taking pictures and all this stuff. I think and a lot of, even Justin, has taken great landscape shots. He loves those. You love those and stuff. And I love to look at that and consume those. I think it's so cool, to do that. And you just, the appreciation of those stenotus, the Stenotus cogri, right? The brownback skinks on Nerlangi that were copulating. I've never seen another photo. Who the heck knows if anyone has been fortunate enough to see that species copulating in the wild before? Quite possibly no. And then we were getting a spot to have a picture of it where we can, we would have seen it either way, but then we can remember that. And that's so great.
I think what I've learned this sort of herping with you and Keith and Justin, first with Keith and Justin, is appreciating other things other than the reptiles, right? I've always been into the environment, but yeah, exactly. Dove. Yeah, jumping out. But the fact that those guys are into birds, and it's like, wow, these birds are all over the place and we're not even paying attention to them. And they maybe, you know, but then you see it on planet Earth or something, and you're like, oh my God, what a cool species. And like, oh shit, I was watching these things, and I didn't take the time to sort of appreciate what was right in front of me. You know what I mean? Because you're so focused on finding that goal species on a herp trip, if you will. But you know, to your point about those skinks breeding, I remember you and I remember Keith being so excited about that. But I remember I was so focused on trying to find an Owen belly python that it kind of seemed like, who cares about
this?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. From the effort that we should be engaging in, right?
Correct. And I think that's some of the things. Well, I don't want to say that I want to go back and change that or whatever, because maybe then we wouldn't have found an Owen belly python or whatever.
Right, you wouldn't have been distracted in such a way that caused you to leave the phone.
Correct. Yeah. Later, you know? Shit happens for a reason or whatever. But I think though that what I'm learning and especially herping with you guys is that, you know, appreciating the whole thing, the whole package, and like how
the whole experience and yeah.
Yeah, to your point, the organic octopus. What do you say? What do you call it? The cosmic octopus, if you will, and how everything's
so interrelated, and you just never know, man. You got to do the best. You can make bad decisions. You can make consciously poor decisions. You really can't make good decisions. It either works or it doesn't. You hope for the best, but it's awesome, man. And heck, even I know with Nick, Nick, for being a guy, I think it's. He's not indulging at this point in life, and that's what makes him so food driven. He knows all the good stuff. He's just, he's being an ascetic on it, so that he's sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, the burgers and the ice break and and all this stuff," and it's like, yeah, it's all good, but if you just partake, it's not as I don't know. I don't have the same obsession because I'm just sort of like, good stuff, man. I don't know. You wouldn't be so worried about it.
Yeah.
100%. But it really does. It does make the thing. The only, maybe you guys did at the end, the only surprise to me was he didn't mention the croc parm. I mean, you guys kept going in on that.
Yeah. I thought about that after the fact, but I wasn't thinking that trip. I was thinking the trip with Salemi and stuff sort of was at the fourth, because he was talking about his trip with Salemi and how they wanted to kill each other, which was just great.
Oh, I didn't hear that part yet. Okay.
Oh, no, you didn't get to that part? Oh, okay. You'll hear it soon enough. But yeah, man, I'm with you 100%, man. That croc parm was awesome. And then I felt kind of weird eating in front of Gavin. And then when Gavin's like, "Oh man, that's conservation for crocodiles," and I was like, "Oh, giddy up,"
Oh my goodness. Well, it's the funny bit too, right? And I know we kind of had expressed these views, but I see it the good side of social media, right? Daniel Natusha's Instagram and stuff. It's so fascinating, and so awesome that he does not have. He has a pragmatic rather than a pedantic view on sort of the use of wildlife in places, particularly in Indonesia, and Papua New Guinea, that it's so refreshing that it's not, he looks at stuff not through the lens of, well, there's this law written by someone who wasn't informed and wasn't concerned with the best interests of the people who deal with these animals on a day-to-day basis, that says you can do X, Y, or Z. And he's just like, no, the practicality of the matter is this is what the population can support, and, be pragmatic. And that's to me, that's so meaningful, so impactful that, as somebody who studies that, he's, recognizes conservation through benefit to the local folk, to the people that are implicated. And that's so meaningful.
Yeah, 100%. I do quite enjoy watching his post, because it's not even just a picture that he's posting. A lot of times he's putting.
There's this great narrative story associated with the deal.
Yeah, and just gives you a whole new perspective. And he's experienced things that we could only dream about, seeing and stuff, or hope to see one day.
Right. That you can only get with the time and days and effort and sacrifice and stuff that have gone into it. Maybe you can see it once or whatever, but to have the context of that requires that effort, and even then good fortune, so it's awesome.
That's good stuff. So
that's my recommendation for today. Everyone on here has already subscribed, but give Daniel Natusha a follow on Instagram.
Oh yeah, you won't be disappointed, that's for sure. Yeah, I found myself, I fought it, man. I fought the good fight. I just find myself finding Instagram the way to go. And the reason that I fought it so hard is because it's so hard to share podcast stuff to Instagram.
Because you can't do like clickable links, right, in the same way.
Right.
So
you have to be up to whatever it is, 10,000.
Oh, really? There is a way even. I didn't even know.
Yeah. You have to be a content creator, I guess.
Nice.
And then you can have links if you swipe up or something like that. But I don't know. I just find it so much more peaceful. It's
you get less free radicals, man. Less just like, I'm just walking along the path. Hey, it's kind of like walking along a path and then looking up and having a cassowary and a couple chicks staring back at you. It's just a free radical that, hey, maybe that one. Hey, I'm friends with, I willingly accepted that person's friend request, or I sent it out, maybe I knew what I was getting myself in for, but I was just meandering down the path. And the next thing you know, you'll look up and it's ready to go. So,
I
don't know. For the most part, it seems like you don't get that stuff in the same way. Where you just get blindsided with negativity is really what it is. At least that's what drives me crazy.
Oh, yeah. I what was the catalyst for that is that using Facebook, I guess, on your computer now, like they changed the whole way it looks in the format and all this stuff. So it just, I don't know. I just don't like it. So it made it easy for me to just disconnect from it. So like I just find myself more on Instagram as of late than Facebook. I don't even know why we started talking about that, but whatever.
I think probably just let us. Well, so you had mentioned the commercialization of this, conservation through commercialization with the meat and skin and all that stuff, which made me think of
Daniel. And
then down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, there we are. And as always, right?
Yeah, perpetually down that way. I did want to say one thing out of the last Carpets and Coffee, just for your own sake, right? So the coffee that you love, and this is me being pedantic, is from Timor-Leste. So I know it's that Leste. It's Leste, Timor-Leste.
Leste. Oh, okay. Leste. Okay.
Yeah, it's very not something, not a pronunciation that we would intrinsically go for and stuff. But I just wanted to give you that because it's your
delicious coffee.
So it's delicious.
Yeah, it's very good
and all that. So I just wanted to hopefully make that a little bit easier going forward.
When does the Mark O'Shea episode air? Oh, well, I'll probably be finishing that up probably Monday and Tuesday. So probably I'm not sure if Nipper did his parts yet. It really depends on that. I'd have to check in and see if his parts are recorded yet. But yeah, probably within the next 2 weeks. That's some good stuff, man.
Woo. Hey man, that's you gotta tell me when it's dropping so I can be sure to refresh the app right away and go in for it, because that's going to be fantastic. Again, I think that I'm glad that it went really well in terms of talking with him, because that's something that, man, he knows so much that we're going to have to get him back and again, because it's truly.
And the thing is, he loves to talk. Which is, I kind of got the feeling that for a while that he didn't, because a lot of people led me to think that he doesn't necessarily want to be involved.
Or didn't want to come on or whatever. Yeah.
But
not the case. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So having an in, I guess, help with Nipper for sure. What an awesome guy. I think what I might try to do is I might try to put there's a couple parts that I'll have to edit out because Nipper and they were saying stuff about work and stuff like that necessarily can't be out.
Right, just engaging in a in their conversation.
Nothing to do with snakes or whatever or anything. But anyway, I might edit it out and kind of put Mark O'Shea's sort of interview, if you will, or a couple chunks of it, because over in the Patreon thing for the Patreon people,
right? Rather than being parsed out into the kind of the outline and things or whatever, just as a list.
I think you can listen to it both ways, and I think that people will appreciate both ways, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, that was pretty badass. You know, especially, you know, I just love the fact that he's so realistic with follow-up question. Yeah, well, we kind of asked the one question. Sort of, you know, oh yeah, the people died on this trip. What do you mean they just yada yada yada, you know?
Well,
but,
my outline says that I'm going to ask you this, so I'm just going to let that slide.
Next question. Wait a minute. But yeah, the rough scale whole thing, the idea that you know, he's very honest with you find it or you don't find it, you know. I think that field herpers would appreciate that more than anything, because I think it's similar to like breeding reptiles, right? When you're seeing people, whether it's on social media or whatever, or YouTube, or you're watching the videos of people out there finding snakes and stuff, and even sometimes when they find stuff over and over and over again, they kind of like have that sort of you know, like, oh yeah, just another whatever. Right. And it makes you feel like they're just finding them all over the place, you know. And that's not the case. And I get why they have to sort of edit around stuff like that, because, you know, you can't have hours and hours of video that you're watching where you don't find anything, because people probably won't tune in. But
right, they would have to be at the very particular same mindset as that.
Yeah,
I'm sure the audience is smaller. But I would sure the audience is not zero. You know, it's a non-zero number. Yeah. It's a lot. You know, the casual person who's just hoping for the picture, you know, that great photo or the amazing. I mean, shoot, you'd think, I'm jumping to mind with the Matt Somerville, Jake Menny, you know, natural herb keeper trip, right? 14 green pythons or whatever it is. That it's like, well, there's a reason that I saw. Tiffany was showing me the other day, right? That there was somebody, you know, constantly green pythons they apply weird filters so they look purple with white scales and stuff, where it's like truly you can obviously tell that the photo is just manipulated in terms of the colors that are color spectrum being shown. But I mean, they're amazing snakes, so I can see why that happens really commonly with them, because they're already amazing looking. And then the notion that you'd have a video where you saw 14 of them or whatever, you know, and all this stuff, but they'd be just as likely to post, you know, well, we, you know, looked and didn't see anything. But yeah, I don't know, super instructive. And, you know, to the casual person, you have to have the snake at the end. But Mark's stuff, right, that was his whole point with his show, right, was that he wasn't going to fake stuff. And I think that's just the credibility associated with that is paramount, you know. And compared even, you know, if we look at the contemporaries, you know, even Steve, I don't think was necessarily as clean on that stuff and whatever. And there's, you know, as young kids, we'd probably be bummed out not to see the, you know, the quest of the show, right? Even if it wasn't maybe as legitimate in terms of the presentation. But now, man, the respect for Mark having that approach to the whole thing is unreal. Yeah, man.
Yeah. You just brought up the trip with the natural herb keeper crew. Went up and saw in the Cape York. They found that I want to say Jake Manny posted it up, but it was I'm sure you probably saw it too. The undescribed species of monitor that they found, that he was just calling like the Cape York rock monitor. Yeah. Man,
the green Tristasy thing.
Yeah. What's your?
So that's from. I think that my impression is that's from a very specific area that's in that sort of that same pygmy banded python. It's up that way, right? Ricky's seeing him in that same spot. So it's somewhere between Gelatin and Cooktown. There's my understanding is it's a particular sort of rock formation deal that they're occurring on. We've had a handful of folks post those photos. They're definitely a different thing, probably almost certainly related to the Tristis stuff, but definitely different, and endemic to a very particular spot, a spot that I'd love to go to. You know, when we go on our own green python venture or trip up from Cairns I definitely want to stop in Cooktown, and if we had the opportunity to visit that area and see those, that would be incredible. So yeah, definitely something that jumps to mind.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out to me, I don't have a picture of it, but the one gecko that he found that was on the rock, and it's like
so that's that particular Black Rock area that's on the way, that national park or whatever, right? That is on the way to Cooktown. How it blends in, unreal camouflage. So tight.
It's just nuts. It's like, what? I think they were talking about it on the Aussie Herp podcast, if I'm not mistaken, when Jake Manny was on there, or maybe it was Matt Summer. It was one of those guys were talking about that.
I don't know. They both been on in short order, but I think it must have been. I think Matt's was before the trip, so yeah, I think it would have. I reckon it was Jake's when he was on there. But yeah, that's another cool spot, and actually, that's a spot that when we went that first time, that Scott had said, "Hey, if you can make your way up there, that'd be a place to consider." But we were just feeling our way out. The first trip, first time.
We're amateurs.
Yeah, so we kind of have a different approach now and all that. But definitely a cool spot with a lot of. That's not the only endemic critter to that area. It's very unique habitat.
Yeah, and I don't know, just cool that finding different species and things that are undescribed and stuff that's still happening there is it's pretty cool, So it's cool stuff. But I don't know. It just kind of reminded me of I don't know, Aki a little bit or whatever. But it's cool. Different head.
Well, it's the same sort of deal, right? Where they're all fairly tight to each other, and I mean, heck, you could put it would require actually getting genetic work off of them, and even having them super in hand and getting really detailed photos on the physiology of them to really make a guess. I'm just, when I say Tristis type, that's just my guess. Certainly they have a relationship that's not all that distant. All those Adatria are not all that distant from one another. They're just radiated into different habitats and worked from there.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a picture of it. I didn't even realize that I did. Hold on, I'll share it just so people can see that gecko that I'm talking about. But if you're not subscribed on YouTube to the Natural Herp Keeper, what are you doing? But that's it, Black Mountain Gecko. Yeah. And you see it here. It's like, where is it? And then you kind of
so like, perfect.
That's just nuts, man. But and I thought it was pretty cool how we found that cassowary just crossing the river. He just sort of chilling out, with the two chicks.
Beautiful birds, for sure.
It's a dinosaur, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So cool stuff. But they're herping the Cape York Part 2 was pretty cool. So you should check that out. Part 1 was I believe all the green trees.
Which is pretty cool too.
yeah, for sure. So, but it's been a long day. Day. Yeah. Just, I don't know, man. I started to worry that I have Lyme disease or something because I've been so tired as of late. I'm like, freaking Rob jinxed me, man. He came out here and talked all about Lyme disease. Now I'm exhausted, tired all the time. Like, I can't get out of bed in the morning where I used to just pop up. Now, like, oh, man, it's like, holy shit. But
worn out of, just, those ticks generally. I wasn't even that into, man, I think the meat thing would be in some ways, a bigger deal to me. It's easy to say now, from the fortunate position right now of not having to deal with it, but that would be a massive bummer.
Yeah, not being able to eat meat again. Yeah, would be
that's
sure.
Like madness. But no, it's and shoot, they're just is this year exceptional? I mean, the part that blows my mind is what I've been 4 or 5 years in a row or something, and it was only last year that we really started talking about this, and I'm just sort of like, man, the luck of the ignorant, on my first 3 trips or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Well, you're okay. You went home fine.
Yeah, I guess. Then when I was finally worried about it, I wound up, with some crazy poison ivy under my skin and stuff last year. Yeah, bananas.
Lack of sunlight. Yeah, that could be it. That could be it. Days are getting shorter. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. It's taking a toll on me the past couple weeks, but but what are you gonna do? Keep pushing along.
Right, just gotta do it.
Yeah. The oh yeah, I already I think I talked about this, but the blue tongue skink that I got from Justin. By the way, if you want if you're on the fence with blue tongue skinks, and you're wanting to pull the trigger on one, and you want to get a decent one, you should hit up the good Dr. Drewlander, Australian Addiction Reptiles, because he hooked me up with one, and they are freaking fantastic, man. They're so cool,
man.
But straight up addicted to those hornworms, man. Like, unbelievable. Yeah. It's crazy how much it loves those things.
But you were saying it was going in for the veg, right? And then it was going in for what was it taken before? Like when I had come, and then you fixed up the egg, and it went in. You really soft boiled that egg, and it went in. It went in on that.
Yeah, it did the egg. Loves bananas, that's for sure. But I know you're not supposed to give them a lot of that. But bananas is one that would go after all the time. It would eat some of the veggies and stuff. I did start feeding it some of that rapashi. I think it's some kind of blue tongue skink diet thing.
Right.
And, you kind of
they would eat that, okay?
Basically like a gelatin, and you cut it up and kind of put it on there.
Portion out or whatever.
Yeah, he does that okay, but man, nothing like those friggin' hornworms, man. It's so crazy, man. They must taste like cheeseburgers or something to them, or what? I don't know, but it's crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's cool to try different stuff. We were looking at that vendor that you're getting all those that you get bugs from regularly, and it was like, well, let's see what they have, man.
Yeah,
try some different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, my dad is almost up and running with his collection, or not his collection, his colony of dubia roaches. Yeah, so he's doing pretty good with that. I don't think he realized the whole frog thing and the fruit fly thing. But
I tell you, man, it is the one. It's not hard. It's like a lot of this stuff where it's not hard, but it's consistent work and. Kind of the fruit fly bummer, man. I've yet to meet someone who can Goldilocks it, right? You either, in order to have enough, to ensure you have enough, you have to have too much, and that's its own kind of bummer, and just constant. Every week you're doing stuff and whatever, and it's sort of the nature of the beast. But he's enjoying them, the frogs at least.
Man. Oh yeah, he loves that thing, man. He thinks they're the greatest thing on. Again, it's weird how the thing, I try to connect the dots in this stuff. And I think that, between you talking to me about it and then seeing my dad actually doing that whole, like having these fantastic display cages, which I should have took you to see them. I don't know why I didn't. We drove by there. I should have just stopped off.
We're getting check them out. Steve steak, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see him enjoying that, and having that, this is what we all got, right? The whole kid thing, just staring at the cage and looking at what's inside and being fascinated that you got this little private window into nature, if you will, if you do it right, and yeah, man, he's got that frog thing hooked up. Man, he's got a green. Well, it does help that he has like a super green thumb. Like he is like dialed in. It turns out that I may have it too, because my sister was over and all the plants, because she's like this plant person or whatever, and like all the plants that we both got, like the Australian stuff and whatnot, mine is like growing like crazy. Hers is not. And, I don't know if it's that room that I have them in. Like, I'm lucky that I have that room with the heat, the humidity, the lights, perfect, all that kind of stuff. We'll see what happens in the winter. But I got this carnivorous plant from Australia. Yeah, man, the thing is growing like crazy. And I didn't even feed it. It's just eating the bugs from outside, So it's great. It's pretty cool. But yeah, good stuff. So I don't know.
Awesome.
We'll see. But
give me 1 second. I'm gonna hit this.
yeah. No worries. Yeah. So the idea is that I would try to get these naturalistic enclosures with Australian reptiles to sort of have what they would possibly have, in their environment. So like I'm thinking diamond pythons with these beautiful Australian ferns and stuff like that. And I have a couple species going, and yes, Crow Fabulous, yes. Yes. But yeah, man, it's cool stuff. And it's that thing where you sort of open up your eyes to the whole cosmic octopus, and things kind of go from there, and you can kind of go down so many rabbit holes. But good stuff. There's a specific type of pothos that I think is a seabell blue or something like that. That stuff seems to, I'm growing that like crazy, and you can kind of propagate that stuff from clippings and stuff like that. So instead of using like what about multi-species cages? I don't know. Maybe at some point that would be cool, but I want to try my hand at the what do you call it first? Let's get some of these enclosures going, and I guess it's
Seems
one
like
of those.
some of the Australians have the more not spin effects, but stuff that's closer to that, right? I was looking at, I forget, somebody on Instagram, right? Somebody in Australia it was a black soil setup similar to the stuff that Matt has in that, but it was a Matt, but I don't think it was spin effects, but it was something with a similar look. But I know that was something you had looked into trying to get, and you couldn't find kind of an equivalent thing here.
Yeah, and apparently I was talking to Luke about it, and he said that they have a hard time finding it as well. So
okay.
I don't know. I might have to settle for some fake spin effects or something.
Right.
But I think of like my dream with that is to have like an Amy eye and have it set up and have one of a couple of spin effects bushes in there, and at night that thing come crawling out. That's sort of the dream, if you will. But I don't know what it is about those. They're cool. They're badass little geckos.
The thing that it is they're unreal looking. They're little aliens, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how anyone could look at that thing and not be fascinated, right? In some way, even just like, wow, that's bizarre at a minimum,
Yeah.
But
yeah. And it's
like that species I have never had, but I've always found that way at some point.
Have you kept any knobs at all? Any knobtails?
Yeah, I'd gotten the Pro Exotics original collection when they were getting out of them. But other than that, then not really. And that was all basically Levis stuff and Pilbarensis back. So it was stuff they'd gotten from Casey and was already kind of his retired stuff or whatever. But only briefly, and not much of the rough stuff. So Amy Eye and Asper and even the Wheeler Eye are beautiful. And something
yeah,
Strophuris,
yeah, Strophuris is definitely a gecko on the list, but there's so many species, man. There's so many different types, and
that one that you found was beautiful, man.
Yeah, man, I was
it's
excited about that.
Not a Western Spinifex type, but yeah, man, talk about the blackhead stick turning into a fantastic gecko.
Yeah, I know. I had to make some kind of saving grace at that moment. Well, my rep was on the line, man. It's like the only snake I found. I gotta do something. I gotta put something out.
But that's the sort of thing though that then makes you wonder if like it's the anti. Oh well, I'm noticing that. I'm not seeing anything, but I did see that inch-long bug. It's the opposite, where it's like, well, we randomly stopped for something else, or what we thought was something else, and wandered around a bit, and then sure enough, found this amazing thing. And it's the anti, where you look at it and say, like, well, maybe we're just flying past all this other cool stuff. If we just walked it would be different.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, that's definitely a species of gecko I'd like to work with for sure. Would be those. I think the cool thing about working with those species like that, like small, you can keep it in a naturalistic cage, and it doesn't necessarily take up as much space as like carpet python or something like what I mean. So you get rid of a couple carpet pythons, and you can kind of make the space and to sort of have like a couple
cool display
naturalistic
situations.
displays with that kind of stuff in it. So yeah, man. Yeah.
I think the thing to Justin's point, right, on the multiple species cages, there's a couple different ways to take it, right? And if you're looking at the dart frog world, there's a lot of condemnation to that, right, in terms of the potential for hybrid offspring and these sorts of things. So you kind of look at it, are we saying to keep like different species that are kind of the same organism, right? So different species of the same genus or of similar genera, or are we talking about like our bottom layer has an amii and the top layer has an Owen polypython, and maybe there's a water feature too that has a fly river or some, one of the long neck turtles or something like that. And it's like those are kind of two different things, and you certainly then you're worried about the Owen probably giving a go to your amii or something, but having a feed.
You tried to recreate the picture I have over there in the corner of that. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. The painter, Tel Hicks, yeah, where it's the Bredley with the amii right there. It's like so that'd be cool, but I don't know how long that would last in there.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe it'd be fun. Maybe there isn't predation or whatever. It's just increasing variables. I'm not fundamentally against it really in either context, and even particularly at zoos and even pet shops and things. Maybe it makes sense to do even where they are just different species of dart frogs in the same genera. That theoretically, well, you don't have to let the eggs hatch, and you don't necessarily have to release those offspring and all those different things, but just the stunning visual, right, of someone walking through a zoo and there's all these different colors of frogs hopping around and stuff, that the impact that can have has its own tremendous value. So I think, and whether it's that or the Tel Hicks picture, I think both those things can have a ton of value. It's tough. I think to get to where it's one of those things that is a great concept, but tough to do.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have sort of like I sent you that video of Ubir or whatever, and just seeing that whole rock formation or whatever, and you're kind of like, yeah, that would be cool if that was a cage. You probably could keep it that way if you had something like even just even the size of those rocks. If you had rocks that big or whatever, you could probably do something in a room type enclosure type of thing. But wow, Earl was out chasing black bears out of his trash. Okay, all right. That sounds like an exciting night, man. I'd rather come across cassowaries than bears, but I seem to do okay with coming across the bear. So we all survived. So lived another day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Cool. I don't know, man. I don't know if you want to hit on anything else. We're at like an hour and a half. We could, keep going or call
it doesn't matter. I'm good either way. If you got stuff to chat on, or if people have.
I don't know. Let's see. They got any questions or anything out there in the YouTube world? I have a crazy idea. Build a giant bioactive morning gecko enclosure with hundreds of them, and then when the green python hatch, just release them in there. Okay, yeah, they probably would eat all those morning geckos, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think so. Certainly, I fed them morning geckos for sure. Yeah, so no worries there.
Perth Zoo has beardies, frillies, shinglebacks, western blue tongues, and a few others in the same area. Cool stuff. Yeah, that would be cool.
The resources to do that obviously are maybe a little bit different than what the average person has, but totally fantastic.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I would like to see a couple of I mean, we saw Crocosaurus Cove, but I think it would be cool to see a couple Aussie zoos, see what they got going on.
I mean, even in the Cannons area, it'd be interesting to see the place that Matt works at. And I know there's another guy, Joe, right? So it was seems to be up that way, who we see on the things that I think maybe works at the same place you're used to. So just so little time, right? And you want to that at least is a good break from it. You can get a little aircon, as the Aussies say, and do that during the middle of the day on
ice break.
Yeah, mix an ice break and a
meat pie,
or a burger, or something.
Yeah,
sausage roll.
100%. But yeah. I don't know. I don't really have. I don't have too much that I was gonna hit on. I did have a couple of. So if we want to real quick show some carpet stuff. I did. I was perusing around, and our buddy Darren Whitaker. If I can find it, hold on. Let me find the outline I did, because. The hell's that? Carpets and coffee. Here we go. So, he's doing a lot of like cross stuff with these pepper gene, and this snake just. I mean, I know. I guess I think about the show that Justin and Chuck did with not having any love for the mutts, if you will. But this is, I guess, an albino Darwin. It's double het for silver pepper and albino. I don't know, man. I just thought that was a cool looking snake. I was like, wow, that's a cool looking carpet. That kind of reminded me of a Duns python, kind of with black eyes. I don't know. That was a caramel pepper, I think it is. Yeah, so that's coastal and inland. Obviously, there's that crazy mesh of stuff, but I don't know. Those two sort of stood out to me as like it's kind of got that Darwin head stamp going on, but some of the stuff that he's posting is just crazy. I guess a lot of that, like the silver pepper stuff that he's been combining with zebras and jags and caramels and hypos and all kind of different genes and mixing it up and seeing what's what. But if you follow Morelia by Design, you can see some of the crazy stuff he has going on. But I don't know. Well, you know how I am about stripes, but that snake just seemed cool to me, and I think people would be happy to have that as a pet. I mean, I guess because it's het silver pepper too is probably cool, but
I mean, it's just visually stunning. I mean, that's the funny thing to me, right? Is always even amongst folks that are against morphs, it's. I think to some extent, really, it's about, just a lot of those folks are feeling like people aren't appreciating the animals for what they are intrinsically, right? It's going exactly to Chuck and Justin's conversation, right? Of saying, well, what's happening to the things that are the less desirable offspring that are produced from there.
Right.
I totally get that. But at the same time, I've, even amongst that crew of folks who are, against mutations, we talk about it, and they still love to have beautiful animals. They're still always looking to find the most beautiful one that they can have and all this stuff. And I don't think there's any problem with that. But it's the fact of the matter that it's like, oh, you still want a visually stunning animal. And even then, we might disagree about what are the most visually stunning ones. Or maybe, I started by thinking it was this, and my views changed over time, and now I think it's something else. And the same happens with them. So, it's not to say it's a fixed point, but whenever we get into that conversation, it's like, yeah, well, everyone wants a beautiful to them animal, and that can change over time. I'm sure. I remember your first carpets, right, were those mixed carpets that then you tossed together and whatever. But I'm sure you thought they were beautiful. You might look at it differently now, but they were still beautiful to you at that time.
Yeah. It's funny, just the idea of having a carpet python was kind of just amazing to me. When I got my first carpet python, the fact that I was able to sort of just have a carpet python was cool enough. I didn't really care what it was. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was a mix, a mutt, jungle diamond didn't. I think it actually was jungle diamond, but it didn't matter, because it was just cool on its own, and I enjoyed that snake for many, many years, and I've said this story a million times, but that's sort of the thing that drew me to carpets. It's like, I had all these different reptiles, and when I got divorced, I sort of had to that's just like the ultimate collection screw you type of deal, where you sort of have to move all this stuff. And, it's one thing when you're moving from a house to a house, but when you have no house lined up and you kind of have to exit stage left, it kind of makes it difficult of what you're going to do with that. So I had to improvise and take it to my parents' house, which, wasn't insulated or anything like that. So I kind of put them down in the basement, and, I had heating lights and tried to heat them the best, and, all kind of crazy contraptions, trying to keep the heat in as much as I possibly could. And the carpets never missed a beat. No respiratory infection, nothing. They were perfect, shed perfect, all this stuff. And, all my other pythons and everything else just crashed. And I was just like, what am I doing, man? Like, these snakes right here is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like, these are pretty cool. So
this can fit my style, or at least to the situation that I'm in, and you appreciate that in the long run. So
hell yeah. I thought it would be interesting, real quick. This is what we'll close with, right? I sort of have that article, well, not article, it was just sort of taken out, but it talked about humidity. This is sort of something that me and you have always chatted about, because the difference between the humidity here as opposed to the humidity there, you're out in Colorado and I'm in Pennsylvania, is like night and day different, and it's one of those things where in the past I have said that I don't think that carpets need humidity, but then going to Australia and seeing how humid it was, finding those gelatins, it was like, holy shit, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this does help somehow with the animal. And the thinking was, I think me, you, and Chris have sort of talked about it at the time, was Chris brought up the point of, during the wintertime, people run humidifiers so that they're all their nasal passageways and lungs and all that all gets real dried out.
Where there's a certain amount of moisture that's necessary to keep everything working appropriately, and then too much is bad, and then the interactions with heat, for sure. 100%. I think that's
and I
right.
think I think that the humidity thing, and I sort of posed it in our little chat with Keith and all, and Matt having sort of humid loving Borneos and short tails and stuff, is that I think people have this misconception a lot of times where they think humidity is wet, where it's not necessarily wet. And
it's wet air, not wet air, not wet. Superficial wet conditions that can cause I think the thing with carpets, right, is that they're so resilient to a lot of stuff compared to other stuff that's less resilient, that they're tolerant of a broader range of things, right? And that's why we can say, take sort of that view that, carpets, it doesn't matter. And it's like, well, it's not to say that there isn't something that's better and something that's worse. They're just resilient.
Right.
Whereas other things will punish mistakes, far
AKA black white lips.
Any of the Bacillus stuff, right? Whether it's white lips or ring pythons or whatever. Yeah, you can't do that,
So I thought it would be. I'll just read this little excerpt that I had, and it was from a paper by Todd Dreiger, I think it was Dreigers, and respiratory diseases, diagnostics, and therapy in snakes. And this little excerpt that he has on humidity, it says, humidity also affects thermoregulation and is critical for the respiratory health of large tropical snakes. High humidity holds heat, whereas dryness allows heat to escape. In tropical rainforest, temperatures rarely drop below 75, and in areas inhibited by large snakes, temperatures are rarely over 90. Thus, daily temperature ranges are often as little as 15 degrees Fahrenheit and fluctuation. In contrast, desert temperatures variability is greater because water vapor is not available to accumulated heat, and thus 40 degrees Fahrenheit or more daily temperature fluctuations are common. Dry cage environments also experience significant temperature fluctuations when external heat sources are turned off at night, which is something that I didn't think of. When snakes are subjected to repeated periods of temperature below their POTZ, I'm guessing that's their,
preferred thermal zone, something like that.
There you go. Immune suppression can occur, making them more susceptible to infectious diseases. When tropical snakes are kept in a dry environment, oh my God, my glasses. Now I lost my spot. When tropical snakes are kept in a dry environment, insensible water loss is also greater. Oh shit, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. The viscosity of respiratory secretion is increased, and these secretions tend to accumulate in the respiratory system. The accumulated secretions increase the risk for acute tracheal obstructions and bacterial growth. Likewise, desert species kept in humid environments may have alterations in the respiratory secretions or respiratory that make them more susceptible to bacterial respiratory disease. Thus, it could explain the biseasonal incidence of mycoplasma pneumonia seen in desert tortoises that occurs following the monsoons. Is that wild tortoises that happens?
Seemed like it in that context. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a cool little tidbit.
And it brings to mind, right, the notion that, you read particularly well. Step one, congratulations, Earl's Exotics, on getting a clutch from your first carpet.
Man, that's cool.
That you got. That's awesome.
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. And then getting back into the question, what it reminds me of, right, is that folks kind of weird, or at least sort of unique husbandry assumptions and presentations from the 80s into the 90s, where people would say, oh, you can't keep water bowls in with rosy boas. And that's probably born of people who are in places with a higher ambient humidity, right, that is situating if there is that water sitting in what is already a more humid environment, and their predisposition to drink and available water and all these different things. Whereas here, I always keep a water bowl in with rosy boas, but no problem. It doesn't cause any issues. But you, in your spot, maybe it would make sense to, only have it in there a couple days a week, this sort of thing. Sanicolas are traditionally even my experience with them when I lived in Michigan was not good. They obviously weren't doing well, so I sent them back to the guy in Corpus Christi, that I gotten them from. Just sort of, they're not doing well here, take them back. Now I have some, and they're doing just fine. And I think that is a reflection of the ambient humidity, and saying, like, okay, if you're in a place that is dramatically different,
right?
We were kind of chatting through it, and it's like, okay, if you are in a place with lower ambient humidity than what's required, you can do things to help with that, in terms of either a whole room humidifier, or in terms of the particular conditions of the enclosure. If you're in a place that's higher than what's required, I think you're going to have some issues, unless you're talking about stuff that you can set up the conditions to decrease that humidity, which is often going to be just dry heat, addition of dry heat, in terms of like high impact bulbs and things so monitors and uromastics and maybe tortoises. But in terms of being able to heat that space in a way that dries out the conditions, right? People always talk about making beef jerky machines as though that's a negative, but if you were trying to keep desert species in Florida, maybe that's something you would have to consider.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, talking to so many different people over the years, I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've learned over all the 10 years of NPR, is that whole, it's one thing to sort of have an idea of the natural history of an animal, and you sort of want to try to dial in your conditions to that. But I think a lot of times this plug and play sort of idea that you put a hotspot of this, you put a an ambient temperature of X, and you're going to be okay, but not taking into account the where you're at and what the room that you're going to put that reptile in, what the conditions are in that room, and I think it's the struggle is here during the winter time is probably the struggle that you guys face probably year round. I would guess is that you have to sort of bump up the humidity some way because you're running these heaters and it dries the air out, and you can just feel the difference between what it would be, say, during the summertime as opposed to what it is during the winter time. And that's really when I sort of run humidifier in my room is during the winter, when I know that the heat's kind of kicking on to sort of keep that ambient or like that ambient humidity in the room sort of pumping at that 60 plus percent, so yeah. I don't know.
So Crow Fabulous makes a really interesting point that, Metabolist goes through the Mexican tropics and stuff as opposed to, so intermediate was what, we have here. And I think really, I just don't have I only know of one person that maybe they had a parent wound up with a single animal of Metabolist, but and that was 15 years ago. We just don't have exposure to that in the same way. Well, Mexico being closed for the most part. Don't talk to Abronia and stuff and some of these rattlesnakes.
Right.
Yeah, who the heck knows about that? But just in terms of the way that goes, and not an issue certainly that you see in, if we're talking about the Flavirufa, right? Pseudolapha flavirufa. Maybe it's changed now to something else, but we don't, see those same problems in terms of being susceptible in the same way. But something intermediate kept in conditions that are too high of an ambient humidity, you'll see skin stuff, and then just general failure to thrive, which may be born of sort of airway issues along what you're talking about, Eric.
Yeah. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah. So that's all I got. Which kind of took us to almost basically the 2-hour mark. So that was good. But yeah, I'll post it over in the I'll post those little excerpts over in the chat so people can check them out and read them. And cool. I guess for me, I would just say, thanks for listening, and check out Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. That's the new one.
It's really good.
If you are into that thing, man, it's probably going to be. It seems that Colubrids are sort of, we're on that cyclical circle where, it's Colubrids are at the front at the moment, but.
Yeah, it's just the movement away from monoculture into I think that's really the thing, right? Is when people get into herpiculture and saying what's the exposure stuff, and there was a lot of voice to say towards monoculture items, and then I think a lot of those folks have been exposed to the fact that there is a lot more other cool things, and that's not to say that the other things aren't cool, but it is to say, I think people got into ball pythons that just definitely looked at it and said, like, okay, this is the thing that there is, and didn't even realize that there were Pseudolapha flavirufa.
100%.
That's a thing that exists.
Sure. I wonder if
still use it, but
yeah, I wonder if field herping played a part in that at all. Because like I think of not being able to really travel abroad for the past 18 months. Maybe if you're finding a species in your backyard, or you take a trip to Florida or something, or, if you're out west or whatever the case would be, you see a species and, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I didn't even know these were a thing. So many times in Texas, I was like, wow, I didn't even know these were a thing. And here we are. Like, oh, okay. But I wonder if that maybe had any sort of impact on people's, say, newer appreciation of species that were sort of under our thumb the whole time. If right in front of
Yeah,
our
I mean,
face.
if people are, getting out and engaging it with an open heart, and not looking at it as, with disinterest or whatever, how could it not?
Yeah.
And I love garter snakes. I love Neurodia. So actually in that first episode, right, that Zach and Matt are talking, and Zach talks about how much he loves Neurodia, and I certainly do too. So
yeah. Yeah.
after my
Stinky bitey snakes, right? Yeah. But cool nonetheless. I do think they're cool snakes, but
at least in moderation. As I said before, having a room full of having 60 of them might get a little bit tiresome, but
yeah, probably would smell not too pleasant either.
right?
Keeping the missus happy with that smell might be a difficult feat for myself, but
you'll be busy.
Yeah. Right on. But as far as so we got that, so check that out. And I really wasn't going to announce it until it was officially up on Apple podcast, but it's up on Spotify, it's up on Google, so you can check it out. So you can also just listen to it on the website or on Transistor. Just look up Colubrid and Colubrid radio. I keep trying. I keep
CNC.
saying,
how about you
like,
I think you it's gonna become CNC. And
yeah. But I wanted to. I kept saying wanted to say like how I say Colubrid and how Owen says Colubrid. That's what I keep trying. I keep saying that in my head, but that's not it. Anyway, great guys, great show. Check it out. And good stuff. As far as NPR Network, just follow us on Instagram and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we'll be back at you next week with a bunch more shows. So good
stuff, man.
Cool.
All right, dude.
All right.
Later,
See you.